All right, example 3, now we're kind of getting into writing some of the equations, okay? So here it says write an equation for a line parallel. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. That seems important. Parallel to y equals 2x minus 3 that passes through the point negative 1, 1 in slope-intercept form. Okay, so a lot of stuff going on. So first of all, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to write that down. Parallel. Parallel should have the same slope, the same m. If I look at my green equation, the m is 2. So right here under my y equals mx plus b, I'm going to put in a 2 for m because I know parallel lines have the same slope. Then I'm going to use negative 1, 1 as my point. So negative 1 is the x, positive 1 is the y. So for y, underneath y, I'm going to put a 1. For x, I'm going to put a negative 1, and that came from this point right here. The b I do not know, so I put plus b. Next, I'm going to multiply. I'm trying to find b, so I'm going to multiply. 2 times negative 1, that gives me negative 2. Everything else stays. Now to solve for b, I just add 2, and b is 3. So now that I have my m and my b, I can write out my equation. Y equals 2. Where did the 2 come from? Right here. So y equals 2x plus 3. Where did the 3 come from? That is my b. Okay. All right, part B, write an equation parallel. So I should be thinking same slope parallel to y minus 4 equals 1/2 times x plus 6 that goes to the point 8, 1 in point slope form. So point slope, here's point slope. So I'm going to write that out. I know parallel lines should have the same slope, So the slope right now, the m right now is 1/2. So my new m right underneath m will also be 1/2. Then I keep the x, I keep the y. I'm going to use this point, 8, negative 1, as my x1 and y1. So my x1 is 8. My formula has a minus. Right here it has a minus. So it's x minus 8. If you want to think about it like being the opposite, like your point is a positive 8, your formula is a minus 8, you can. Over here for my y1, since the point is a negative 1, it's minus a negative 1, it changes to plus 1. And here's my equation. And I'm done. All right, last example, same sort of thing. These are just perpendicular, all right, perpendicular. So for A, write an equation for a line perpendicular, so we're not going to use the same slope, to y minus 3 equals 4 times x plus 1 through the point 8, negative 8, comma 2 in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. Then perpendicular, right now my slope is 4. My slope right now is 4. It's not parallel, so I want something perpendicular. So I need to make 4 into a fraction, so I'm going to put a 1 underneath it. Then I'm going to find the opposite reciprocal. So I flip my fraction. If the 4 was positive, my new slope is going to be negative. So my slope, my m, is negative 1/4. So right here under m, I'm going to put negative 1/4. Then my x is going to be negative 8. My y is going to be 2. Then just like we did in the last example, I'm going to multiply. So I'm multiplying negative 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to multiply, and it's okay to use a calculator, negative 1/4 times negative 8. Negative 1/4 times negative 8. So remember, a negative times a negative, I get positive 2. And I tried to give you also, if you're on the homework, I tried to give you numbers that will work out to be a whole number. All right, then I solve for b. I do the opposite. I subtract 2. 2 minus 2, I get 0 for my b. So my final answer is y equals negative 1/4 x. And then you actually don't really need to put anything. If you want to put plus 0 or minus 0, you can, but since adding 0 doesn't really change anything, we usually just write it as y equals negative 1/4 x. Okay, so part B, write an equation for a line perpendicular, so we're still working on those perpendicular lines, to 2x plus 4y equals 8 that passes through the point 7, -3 in slope-intercept and point-slope form. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Okay, so first of all, hopefully you're realizing right here the equation that the problem gives us, 2x plus 4y equals 8, that is in standard form. That's in that ax plus by equals c. So we have a small problem that we don't know the slope. There's no m or slope in standard form. So we're going to have to convert this into slope-intercept form. So to do that, I want to get it into y equals mx plus b form. So I want y by itself on the left. So I want y by itself. So first I'm going to move the x. It's a positive 2x. So the opposite of a positive 2 is subtracting. So I'm going to subtract 2x from each side. So 2x minus 2x is 0. I'll cross those off. I bring down my 4y. Now here's where I see people mess up. People want to say 8 minus 2 is 6, but these are not like terms. The negative 2x has an x, the 8 has no x, so I cannot combine them. So I'm just writing out what I have, negative 2x plus 8. Sometimes people will write 8 minus 2x, but if you think about y equals mx plus b, you want the x first. Then I'm getting closer to having y by itself, but I still have this 4. So the 4 is being multiplied. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide each number, so 3 times, by 4. 4 divided by 4 gives me 1. Right here I have negative 2/4. I can just simplify that to negative 1/2. And right here, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we had to do all of that work to get our slope. So our slope is negative 1/2. Our slope is negative 1/2. But remember, we want something perpendicular. So I'm going to take my slope of negative 1/2, and I'm going to flip it. So the 2 will be on top, the 1 will be on the bottom, and I change the sign. So it was negative, now it will be positive. So my new slope is going to be positive 2. My new slope is positive 2. And you know what, we're just going to do slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write out y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to use positive 2/1 is basically positive 2. If you use 2/1, that's also fine. That's going to be our m, or our slope. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in right where my m is. Then we're going to use this point that the problem gave us, 7, -3. That will be our x value and our y value. So in for x, I'm putting 7. I don't know my b or y intercept, so I put plus b. For y, I'm putting -3. Then again, just like we've been working on, 2 times 7 is 14. To solve for b, I subtract 14, I get -17 as my b. So my final answer is y equals 2x, my slope was 2, minus 17. So just to kind of recap what we did to get this, because there was a lot of steps. First, we took the equation. The equation was in standard form, so we converted it to slope-intercept to find our slope, which was -1/2. Then we took our slope and we found the perpendicular slope. So we found that negative reciprocal, which was 2. Then we used the point the problem gave us, plugged in the x, plugged in the y, and wrote our final equation. You can always rewind the video too and watch that again if you would like. Okay, lastly, the summary. First question, how can you tell from an equation and from a graph if the lines are parallel? So what would the graph look like if the lines are parallel? What would the equations look like if they're parallel? Same thing for perpendicular lines. How can you tell on a graph that 2 lines are perpendicular? How can you tell from an equation that 2 lines are perpendicular? Lastly, because this is really important, it's one of the biggest 8th grade standards, so take your time on this question. What are the 3 forms, so the point slope, standard, slope, intercept, what are the 3 forms of linear equations, and what are the pros and cons of each form? If you need to, you can go back and look at the vocab section of your notes, and all that will be in there. Thanks. Have a great day.